5 panelists. And it comes to, it should be as no surprise to anyone that out of the 5 panelists, we have 3 of which are coming from a design or architectural background. So let me introduce them one by one. Let's start with a regular attendee of our events, Mr. Nasser Turk, who is the regional manager of WATG, an international architectural firm with offices all over the place: Los Angeles, Chicago, Dubai, Singapore, and pretty much all of the major cities, the major metropolis cities. We also have Mr. Michael Magill, who's the managing director of RSP Architects, headquartered in Asia, the Far East Asia. And we also have Mr. Lotfi Sidrahal, who's the principal of Atelier Pod, a French-based interior design firm. So here are our architects / interior designers. From a technical consulting background, we have Mr. Michael Chabowski, who is the chairman of MCTS, which is shorthand for Michael Chabowski Technical Services. And we also have Mr. Zakaria Sadik, who is the president of the Moroccan Green Building Council. He is going to be presenting his views from a green building sustainability point of view. And the Moroccan Green Building Council also happens to be our endorsement partner for this initiative. So as you can see, a rock star assembly of panelists. Julien, the stage is all yours. And we're all curious to know what is it that you and the panelists have to say for the next 1 hour or so. So thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. First, I would like to thank IDE for hosting us in Morocco, Mazagan. And on the panel today, we have interesting team, indeed. Selection of creative, passionate individuals specialized in hotel design development. So today, I would like to try to make it a quite interactive sessions between yourself and them. I'm sure that out of the public, there's a lot of people who would like to be involved, who are involved in hotel development, and who would like to know a little bit more about the process of how they can be part of these projects with us. And hence, I would like them to share with us how they manage, despite all the challenges and restrictions, to put out of ground these amazing properties, which makes people dream during their holidays, business sessions, so on and so forth. So, I will sit down and start gearing some questions to them, trying not to be too nasty. Okay. The first question that I have is, what are the limitations of design architecture, creativity versus engineering capacity during the hotel design development that you all face during your daily work, developing hotels and mixed-use development, so on and so forth? So I will I would like to guide the first question to Lotfi from Atelier Pod. And tell me more about how do you, I'll repeat again, the limitation of design and architectural creativity versus engineering capacity during the design development.
Thank you, Julien, for giving me the first question. The limitation really when you're talking about creative versus engineering, the limitation I really see, it's really time. I think that once we set up the right story and then when we have the right design, it's always a great adventure to sit with the engineers to find solutions. But all this design process has, for me, only one limitation, it's the time. The time of the design development, as you said, and as you mentioned. So when it comes to engineering solution, it's something also that we need to look at regarding the budget constraints and the limitation of the design process on itself. So yes, time is definitely a key issue, and so as long as you start early working with the engineer and finding solutions, the easiest you can get with delivering the process you want.
Michael, any point of view on this one?
Yeah, actually the engineering process is an opportunity as well as a constraint, and it depends on the quality of the team that you assemble around you. So at the start of every project, we have a visionary stage where we get all the designers of the project together, and we brainstorm, we imagine, we create. And it's that multidisciplinary aspect of the design process where the client is involved also that we see the most opportunities coming for the design in the design process. So we don't see it as a disadvantage. It's actually an opportunity. A lot of our projects, we challenge structural design, engineering design to get the best out of the project. And also, if these problems are resolved in the early stages of the design process, then also the cost of maybe solutions at a later stage can get very large, so they can be resolved earlier in the design process, and therefore you can also save the client money and give more back to the design.
Interesting, thank you. And Nasser, any point of view on this one?
Thank you. I agree with both colleagues here. From the standpoint of, I think as designers, we have to continually push the envelope in many ways. Technologies, how we deliver projects, how to make something unique in that sense, because as clients, I think everyone wants to see whether it's a resort, whether it's residential, whatever type of project it is, we always have to try to bring the team together, but it's all about pushing the standards, pushing what we could do, and trying to, from the get-go, when you bring everyone together versus in pieces, you could really get all the minds together to really kind of go, what can we do, what can we make this special? And I mean, you're always going to have that internal back and forth, because I think all of us as designers or engineers, we have certain ways of doing stuff, and when we always have to battle a schedule that is crazy, we run into that conflict. But I think ultimately when you bring the team all together and we coordinate, there's not one part that works by itself. So if we could try to, any of the developers out there, you bring the team together as quickly as possible and in the beginning of possible, so the coordination can happen and the great thinking and ideas, then it's just going to escalate everything down the path.
Thank you very much. Zakaria, would you have any point of view on this subject?
In French, it will be more comfortable for me, and I think for people also. Donc, pour moi, la problématique les limites de la créativité pour les personnes ou les designers dans les pays en Afrique ou même à l'international sont surtout réglementaires. On a beaucoup de réglementations sur la sécurité incendie et d'autres qui imposent des problématiques d'espace sur le design. Après, maintenant, on trouve d'autres problématiques qui sont liées plus à des déficiences sur l'exploitation future des bâtiments, des espaces. Et tout cela devra être pris en compte par le développeur lui-même et qu'il l'impose directement à ses designers, à ses consultants.
Merci. And Michael Chabowski, you do as well face some challenges in terms of, I guess, not for the back of the house, but for the front of the house, the F&B element. Sometimes I guess that your team tend to be, or try to be, hopefully, a little bit creative of what we can do, but we are limited with the structure, the engineering, or whatever is possible in reality to be done, right?
Yes, we're pulled in more than one direction.
in reality. Back of house has a tendency of shrinking over the past decade. But on the other hand, a lot of the functions of back of house are going to a front of house situation, except for the messy parts, which you keep back of house. So we're finding that the back of house is shrinking, but at the same time we have hygiene regulations which are incumbent upon us and operators are pushing, which actually adds to the requirement of space at the back of house. So with every project we have to look with fresh eyes and look, although we have our background of over 500 projects, every new project is a new sheet of paper which we have to address and to get the best result for the stakeholders which we can.
Thank you, Michael. I'll shift to a second question, which is, we witnessed lately the hike from investors to have more a hotel component integrated in a mixed-use development. So we see less and less a pure hotel component being built because, and there's more an integration I think that the hotel component become like a cherry on the cake of a lot of projects. What's your point of view of that, the reason behind all this? And how do you treat your everyday appointments towards this, and how do you see this trend going? Can I start with Nasser, maybe?
Well, as WATG, if a lot of you are not familiar, we started as a hospitality design firm, so we've been doing this for 73 years. So people know us as for hotels and resorts. And we also do strategy in-house. So from that perspective, it helps us kind of guide us on what the market trends and so forth are happening in the hospitality industry. So from your perspective of investors, lately we've been seeing a lot of the hotel brands starting to add service departments, serviced villas, branded villas, and this type of residential component to the project. In many ways, I think, especially depending on the developer, let's use, for instance, an EMAR, they will create a hotel with their brand, whether it's Address or Vita and so forth, and then they tag on the service department component, which at the end, it starts to bring value, it brings cash flow, and in addition, then it brings a whole nother life to whatever the resort or the hotel is. And I think any of us that are investors and we want to buy or purchase a property, knowing that there's a brand behind it, a very strong brand, it's just going to encourage you to be a little more comfortable in your purchase power. So I think this is starting to be a big trend that we're seeing from the standpoint of bringing that residential, creating more of a life to the hotel, so it's just not operating as a hotel, but there's actually functions happening, there's people coming and going, there's a little more life to it. You start to bring in all the little community facilities, so you start to have more cafes, and it's just not people staying in the hotel. And also as an investor, you're starting to see that when you're not there, if it's a second home, then you could actually put your unit into the rental pool. So it could become part of the hotel keys. So there's lots of flexibility, and that's what we're seeing a lot as a trend these days, almost in every project, whether it's resort or whether it's an urban project.
Thank you, Nasser. So we are creating more and more destinations around any mixed-use development. Interesting. Lotfi, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think this trend is also affecting the profile of investors. We have many different kind of clients we are working with, and we'll always have the classic hotel investor with a pension fund or an institution, insurance, who will invest in hotels because they are looking for a long term. But what we are witnessing is that there is another kind of investors that are more classical real estate investors, and they see a fantastic opportunity in hotels to bring that in their mixed use. So more and more they are trying to sell sophisticated products, as you said, Nasser, and they realize that hotel is one of the perfect assets to bring into their mixed use in order to create life and to brand that destination. So I think the trends, in our opinion, from the investors we are working with, are coming more from this side, from the real estate investor who will looking to make his product more sophisticated, than on the classic hotel investor who will always invest in hotels because he's looking for a long-term. So this is how we see that. And fantastic, and the work the hotel brands are doing in creating their brands and making also that sophisticated and attach all this experience so it creates bridge between other products.
Very interesting. Michael, give me your point of view. What do you think about it?
The mixed-use model is it was one of our specialities, actually. RSP, if you don't know, is an Asian firm. It's got 15 offices around the world, over 1,300 architects. So with that size, the company has grown from Singapore as its headquarters, and the mixed-use model is predominant in Asia. It's what we say is our speciality, that we bring a whole community, and the project becomes more of a lifestyle component as well. So we have multiple hotels with a retail component, service departments, maybe a commercial development, commercial asset as well. And we see that as a combined destination in an urban context or also in an outside of town context. So that it's become a very, very common model in Asia, and it's something that their Asian companies are now transferring into GCC is very common, and now Africa. We've got 8 projects across all of Africa at the minute, and a lot of those are the mixed-use type, which are being invested by Asian companies as they move into Africa, because they see it as a large growth market.
Right, thank you. But Lotfi, one question about that is that in North Africa region now, is there also a trend towards, we saw that a lot in the Middle East, in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, so on and so forth. In Morocco, for instance, is that also a trend now to combine the hospitality component to a mixed-use development as well, as Nasser mentioned with the service apartments, so on and so forth?
Yes, definitely. We did a mixed-use project in Marrakesh, where there is mall, retail, residences, and a hotel operated by Carlson Residors. So of course the trend is going there, and it's the same thing. The investor was not a classical hotel investor, but it was more a real estate investor. So the investor was Xavier Guérin Hermès, who teamed up with a hotel investment fund to do the project. So yes, definitely the trend is also here. Morocco is following that, and many projects also are going on. So,
thank you, Lotfi. Michael, I would like to ask you a question. With this component of mixed use, and knowing we want or we don't want, we have a logistic point of view behind all that, right? Do you think that there's a synergy and an advantage of the owners developing a mixed-use development in terms of kitchen development behind for the cafes, as Nasser mentioned, the lifestyle around the mixed-use development? Is there a good synergy, there is a good cost efficiency for the owners doing that, from your expertise?
Yes, creating a community, which is how I see these mixed-use developments. We find that the sharing of back-of-house services is a great cost saving. We get a hotel, and then you get a hotel and service apartments. The only real addition is maybe one food and beverage outlet, which is additional in the service apartments. Room service, if you're having that, would be anyhow transparent coming from the hotel. And you are right, the shell and core, which we get involved in for the additional outlets, coffee bars, and which bring added value, both to the investor in getting a rental and to the community for making it more vibrant. From our point of view, increase in our contribution is very limited when it goes from one to the other, but it's very welcome. It's a very, very interesting projects to work on.
Thank you. And Zakaria, in terms of sustainability of this mixed-use development, let's talk about that a little bit. How do you think we can develop these mixed-use development, which are very often very bulky and imposing, and make them a little bit more sustainable? What is your philosophy about this?
I will continue in French, sorry. Je pense que l'évolution urbaine qu'il y a aujourd'hui dans les pays africains, il y a des espaces où on change d'activité, des bâtiments qui deviennent des hôtels. La ville, le centre de la ville change. Je prends l'exemple de Casablanca. Il y a tous les grandes banques marocaines qui sont au centre de Casa, qui vont déménager vers une autre zone, un ancien aéroport. Là où ils ont leur siège, il y a une évolution qui va se faire, qui va devenir un peu plus vivante dans ce boulevard Hassan II. Et ces bâtiments existants vont devoir prendre des activités autres, qui peuvent être de l'hôtellerie résidentielle et qui va imposer une mixité. Donc ça, c'est pour l'espace existant. Il y a, aujourd'hui, on a parlé de Marrakech, où il y a des projets mixtes. À Rabat, à Casablanca, il y a également des bâtiments neufs avec une mixité d'usage. Il y a le plus grand projet d'Afrique qui regroupe, la plus grande tour d'Afrique qui regroupe des espaces résidentiels, hôtellerie, commerce, spa et d'autres espaces qui sont imposés par l'évolution des besoins. L'aspect environnemental, aujourd'hui, on ne peut plus penser les bâtiments pour une durée de vie de 30 ans, 50 ans, on doit penser une durée de vie plus longue, donc une évolution future. Un hôtel, on a un exemple d'un hôtel à Casablanca, dans sa conception, il a été anticipé que cet hôtel peut devenir des appartements demain pour des étudiants, pour des habitants, pour des espaces de petite surface. Donc, que ce soit l'évolution urbaine ou les exigences environnementales, on est en train de tendre vers ce type de bâtiments hôtels à usage mixte.
C'est très intéressant. Une bonne façon de renouveler tout. C'était bien intéressant. Ma prochaine question sera... sorry. My next question will be for Nasser. It will be, how do you achieve and the right service of the building purpose by being by creating an experience-way destinations while meeting at the same time the owners and investors' need and the operational requirements of such a building?
Good question. This is our challenge. This is why you hire us, right? It's always interesting because, you know, we've been doing hospitality for so long, so it's always a challenge on how you could make something unique, but also make it functional. And this is a problem that we always have, and sometimes we have to educate a lot of the owners from the standpoint of they always want to look at how they could save money, tighten the budget, you know, get things delivered faster. And what we've learned over 70 years is that, you know, a little bit of time and a little bit of money up front goes a long way at the end, especially with hotels. Hotels, you know, original construction costs are one thing, but where the money is made or lost is in operations. Same thing for golf courses, same thing for hotels and resorts. So if you're able to take a little bit more time, not a lot, just a little bit, and look at, you know, creating spaces, especially as we're talking about back of house, getting these spaces where the functionality of the hotel or the resort ends up working more efficiently, then you will notice in time when the return starts to happen in that 10, 20, 30 years, you'll start to see the huge gains. Us as a company, we've seen a lot of write-ups about the return on hotels that are designed by us. And in the long term, those hotels end up making more money and giving more return to the investors and to the owners. So it really does make a difference. And another layer on top of that is all the brand standards. Every operator has their standards for, you know, meeting and achieving certain standards. So we also help in writing those standards. We've worked with Four Seasons, we've worked with Hilton on coming up with those standards. So there's many layers that happen there, but I think at the end of the day, in order to kind of meet what they want, we kind of got to educate and say, listen, down the road, given history, if you take a little bit more time and an expense here in the forefront, it's going to end up paying dividends down the road. So,
thank you, Michael. What do you think about that?
Creating a destination is always something that a client comes to us to look at. the destination in itself is all about people. The key thing about your development, you've got to get people into your development, and you've got to get them to stay there as long as possible. This is something that was also mentioned yesterday. So, you know, one of our developments at the minute is on the Palm Jumeirah in Dubai, and our client said to us, I want 25% of all tourists in Dubai to come to my development. How do you make that happen? So first thing you got to look at is flows of people in and out of your development. So there's a metro station in the development. There's a bus station in the development. There's 5,000 car parking spaces in the development. So you create the infrastructure to get people there. That's key. It's the same as the location of your development. If it's not in the right location to take advantage of the current infrastructure, you're not going to get the footfall that you need to drive that hotel or combined development. The second aspect is lifestyle. You've got to create a lifestyle in the development that people want to enjoy, whether it's retail. F&B is now a big draw. We don't talk now about retail malls. It's now F&B destination. So you bring people, they want to dine, they want to relax, you've got to give them entertainment. You plug into that a 3-star, 5-star, 4-star hotel, so you give a variety of offerings, and then you've got to create a unique experience. So for example, on the hotel that we're doing in Dubai, we put in a 52-story tower with a 250-meter long swimming pool on the 50th floor. So you create a destination. So those are the sort of things that when we talk to a client, we look at the project and we look at what we can achieve within inside their business model. That is an extreme example, but we're also looking at smaller developments. We're looking at one in, we just finished the design of one now in Accra in Ghana, which again is a Shangri-La hotel. It's got good connections to the airport. It's got a variety of service departments and retail and F&B to make it a destination in Accra. So I think a destination is about people, not about creating or spending lots of money in architecture. It's about getting people to your development, and it's about getting them to stay there as long as possible.
Thank you. Quickly, Lotfi, knowing today the limitation whilst developing projects where owners want to maximize and optimize revenue, right, on their build-up area or what you're creating, how do you tackle the programmatic, especially knowing the minimum requirement of the hospitality operation, and when very often the owners the developers start without a hotel operator on board, how do you tackle, based on all your past experience of hotels, these situations?
Well, time. I think it's a key issue, and also you need to understand very well your product. I think once we understand the product, and not only in a design perspective, but also on an operation perspective, then you can always find ways. I will give you some example. We were working on a concept for Paramount Hotels, and the build-up area for the public spaces were too short, because we needed to have a lobby, several restaurants, a cinema room, because it's Paramount Hotels. So they wanted to have the greatest room, and a lounge, and a nightclub, etc. So I said, okay, what about the screening room, this cinema room? Maybe we can make it at the same time a lounge. Maybe at the same time it can be also a nightclub, because you're gonna spend so much money to make that cinema room acoustically efficient. So better to use it for other type of uses.
Flexibility.
So, yeah, flexibility is one of the key issues. And when you spoke about the brand standard, and I think Nasser also raised that, I think we are going more and more by trying to overcome the brand standards. Even the brand starts to understand that. I mean, we work with Accor, with Hilton, with Fairmont, with many other hotel brands, and more I think they put that on the side. I have a good story. The first time we did a Four Seasons restaurant, we did a lot of research. We went to present to the head of F&B for Four Seasons worldwide, and then I sit with him and I wanted to explain to him that we know the brand, we respect the brand, this is how we see Four Seasons restaurant and all that. So he was looking at me as the guardian of the brand, and then he told me, I don't care about Four Seasons. Just make us a successful restaurant. That's it. Just forget about the brand. I said, but yes, it's Four Seasons. I don't care. Just make me a goddamn successful restaurant. That's it. That's what we want. So this kind of limitation, I think that more and more we are trying to put that big book of 40 hand pages aside, try to be creative, because the world is going so fast. So we cannot rely on a version that have been written 7 years ago or 6 years ago. It's not always relevant.
True. Michael Chabowski, give me your opinion on that. Because I know that you face a lot of challenge in this regard as well. So.
Yes, we certainly have challenges. We like to, we do refer to the brand standards, but we do take them as a base to work from. Most of the brand standards we are given are undefined for our areas. They're much more defined for architecture and other areas. So it allows us to put our imprint into what we believe the project requires. We also have to remember, and we do take into account, that the operator may not be on the project by the time the project opens. And believe it or not, that happens quite often. So we actually have to design with a more generic view how the project has to stand alone, independent of any particular operator, which can lead to some clashes at times, but that's what we're there for.
Perfect. Excellent. Lotfi, what are the current challenges of interior design during hotel projects development, especially when you are developing in various countries and cultures?
That's a very interesting one. Thank you, Julien. I think the most important challenge for interior design or design is that design nowadays is as important as service in a hotel, which was not the case before in the hotel industry. I think it's a trend that's last 20 years. But the difference between design and service is that the guests, when they arrive at the hotel, they don't expect to have an unusual service or a very different service. They want to see things they are used to see. They want to have a good quality service. But for design and architecture, differentiation now is the key. You have to differentiate, and the guests are waiting for that. So they are waiting for the designers to challenge themselves to create new things. And this is getting more and more, and the challenge is getting more and more. And I think that it's not something symptomatic only to the hospitality industry. I think it's also something related to our time. Cross-aesthetical capitalism feeds on art, aesthetic beauty, not only in hotels, in our phone, in all the objects. I mean, humanity never experienced as much beauty and aesthetic surrounding us. And this also, it's the same thing for hotels. So at the end, you think you are doing a hotel, but at the end you are feeding Instagram. So if you don't manage to feed Instagram well, he will beat you. And this is, for me, the right challenge. Of course, there are many technical challenges and technology, but I think the real one is this one. How you can feed the beast of capitalism, of Instagram, with new images, new ideas each time to renew yourself. Because guests now, they are expecting that.
It should be quite an interesting challenge for all of you, because at the end of the day, how much can you be creative? It's endless at the end of the day. Nasser, what do you think about it?
Yeah, you touch on something very critical. The shift in the way that people are experiencing hotels is changing. You're starting to see lots of the different brands, but I think it's more, again, it's all about guest experience. But, you know, especially in the UAE, you see the big rooms, you see all the great designs, but now it's shifting where the rooms are almost coming back to becoming smaller. And it's all about the experience. When you go to the hotel, you're not wanting to stay in the room anymore. You're wanting to really kind of interact. The lobby, all this area, these public spaces become basically the living room for the hotel. And people want to be, whether you want to be seen, whether you're having meetings, however you're interacting, but those spaces have become very important. And even to the extension, we're looking at more so, especially with some of the urban hotels, on how you could bring the inside out. So you really kind of bring almost like the city into what the public space of the hotel is. So I think it starts to kind of shift everything and you're looking at all the different brands. You know, of course, wellness is becoming a very huge tagline, if you want to say. The experiential hotels, the different type of kind of niches and what people are looking to do. If it's you know, farm to table with the food industry, how the F&B is all working, all these different things, and getting people more integrated to the outside and being almost less in their room but more social. We're starting to see a real big trend. Even there's hotels that are really geared towards, you know, eco, but also integrating in some of the activities, integrating them into the community. There's hotels that are starting to set up different types of activities where guests could not only do adventures but also go out and do experiences from the standpoint of, you know, working with them at their farms, kind of seeing their facilities, and kind of taking this whole nother type of tourism to a different level. So I think it's, you know, we kind of think of everything as glamorous and 5-star and 7-star, but it's really starting to attract a whole different trend of people, whether it's somebody from a backpacker to a family to a married couple, and you're starting to see all that happen. And the more that gets integrated into these different hotels and concepts, I think we're going to start to see a really great trend, and it's going to even help the design and us be able to kind of come up with more creative solutions for these guest experiences.
Very interesting. Yeah, so about bringing in the street life towards the hotel. Michael, what do you think?
I think as a designer we've got a fantastic job because, you know, all this is new ideas. You know, constantly our briefs are changing, the opportunities, the technology, the energy as well that the young clientele are having traveling the world. And obviously as an architect, every project has a unique site, you know, so the unique context of a site, the views, the aspect, and you bring all that together. There's no way that you're never going to be limited by the opportunity for creativity. But the thing is, as a designer, you have to take all that energy, all these ideas, and you have to distill it into that Instagram moment. So, sure. which is the beautiful thing. And obviously, we're architects, and we sketch ideas, and you know, I love sketching, but you know, I mean, you got to distill that into the CGI image, which sells the vision to the client, and you know, and that is a big part of our job, is selling the idea. You know, how do we passionately take this idea to give it to a client, for them to see the possibilities of what the next step in hospitality, the design is, where the industry is going. The millennials of today will be, you know, the big spenders of tomorrow. So we have to engage with that population and then take it forward. So I think it's very exciting, and I have no end of creativity.
Amazing. But how do you balance this creativity with very often the biggest question, which is with owners' financial capacity?
No, I see one is like the other. You know, budget is just another design constraint or another design rule that you have to meet. You know what I mean? Every project we do, the client gives us a budget, and we say this is a budget we will work into. So straight away you can work out the square meter rate, and you can then know the materials you can use. You can then know, you know, we work a lot with the back of house guys, and you know, we obviously want to squeeze them tighter because we want the space to be in the front of house spaces. We want to reduce the size of rooms because the rooms itself will not create the destination. So it's again, it's you're juggling of all the pieces of the jigsaw. You know the budget, and you work to it. So it's not a limitation.
Budget versus creativity, so the balance could be, but it's quite a challenge, I would say, during projects, right?
It's always a challenge. The challenge is more, in my experience, is when they reduce the budget at the end of the project. Because then all of a sudden you're working to this budget and vision, and then you get to tender documentation stage, and the client says, I'm reducing the budget by 20%, and you've then got to go back and see how you can still maintain the vision, but with a reduced budget.
Because the MEP guy went before you, right?
Pardon?
Because the MEP guy went before you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why. Lotfi, what do you think about it?
Yeah, Yeah, budget. I mean, in terms of design, I've always seen a budget a great and good challenge because sometimes we made our greatest ideas because we had some limited budget and restrictions. But as Michael said, it's always frustrating when you know about the real budget at the end, and it's something that's not going to work. And it's put you in a situation where you need to do some cuts and value engineering at the end of the project, which is not necessary. And sometimes it's just because the breakdown was not done well, the packages was not divided well. So the interior designer, the architect, MEP, as you said, the structure, we don't know exactly which part of the budget goes well. But we always manage to find an option. I think that as a creative, you need to find that. It's only when you have to cut that once the tender have been launched and the contractor awarded, which is a little bit more tricky.
It should be quite challenging because all the touches of your creativity is placed on a project at the end, correct? And this is, as you said, is the last part, and this is where very often the value engineering get in, just shaved all the little touches that you thought of putting in. It just disappear, unfortunately. It should be quite, it's sad, but it's like this, unfortunately. So my next question will be for Mr. Zakaria. What are the methods used by your individual practices, you especially being the Green Council leader, to ensure sustainability developments in Morocco and liaise with your local authorities to implement the sustainability in all these developments happening around town?
Thank you. Aujourd'hui, les engagements dont on parle chaque année, je pense que la COP23 de réchauffement climatique, avec son approche, la COP22 qui a eu lieu l'année dernière au Maroc, à Marrakech, dans le secteur du tourisme s'est beaucoup engagé, a démontré que des orientations, des bonnes pratiques exemplaires qui ont été mises en place sur des hôtels. Ça touche particulièrement à des problématiques que nous rencontrons dans le continent africain ou dans les pays où il y a des problématiques de manque d'eau, manque de sécurité pour l'alimentation électrique. Ces contraintes nous orientent vers des solutions innovantes et des solutions durables. Donc on voit l'intégration des énergies renouvelables. Le Maroc vise à atteindre plus de 52% d'énergie renouvelable d'ici 2030. Il y a également une problématique de l'eau qui est assez présente et sur laquelle il y a aussi un grand projet à Agadir qui sera le plus grand projet mondial dans le monde pour le dessalement de l'eau. Mais aujourd'hui, les bonnes pratiques sont issues d'engagements de pays. Le Maroc a plus de 13 000 dollars qui vont être investis dans le tourisme, en parallèle avec d'autres secteurs connexes qui sont l'eau, l'énergie, mais au total, ça représente à peu près 45 milliards de dollars. Pardon. Et ça, c'est les engagements étatiques. En parallèle à ça, on a vu apparaître au Maroc l'arrivée de standards environnementaux internationaux, des labels comme la haute qualité environnementale, un label français, d'autres labels américains ou britanniques qui sont développés sur plusieurs hôtels. Il y a aujourd'hui plus de 6 hôtels importants certifiés ou en cours de certification. Particulièrement dans la station Tarazout Bay, qui est la première station dans le monde hors France certifiée HQE aménagement. Donc ces orientations de certification, de labels, encouragent la mise en place de bonnes pratiques. Le Maroc a ses atouts parce qu'on suit quelques réglementations françaises ou internationales comme l'HRAE ou autres, ce qui facilite l'intégration de ces bonnes pratiques. Deuxième élément, les développeurs eux-mêmes ont des contraintes de confort. Aujourd'hui, des groupes d'hôteliers importants intègrent la notion de développement durable dans leur politique. On ne peut pas passer à côté, donc on est obligé de l'intégrer. Ça peut représenter une contrainte pour certains, je dirais, consultant, designer. Mais c'est surtout une opportunité parce que ça encourage la créativité dont on parlait tout à l'heure. C'est en lien avec la notion de l'OPEX, donc investir et réduire, pour réduire les coûts d'exploitation, de donner une expérience supplémentaire à ce client qui va passer du temps, qui lui-même a ses attentes en termes de respect de l'environnement. Donc l'ensemble de ces éléments font que le développement durable et la lutte contre le changement climatique et la recherche de labels, parce qu'aujourd'hui l'utilisateur il a besoin de garanties pour éviter le greenwashing. On a besoin de garanties. Donc les certifications sont en développement important au Maroc. Et par expérience, je travaille dans ce domaine. Et il est plus facile pour nous au Maroc de développer des hôtels certifiés HQE, LEED, BREEAM qu'ailleurs dans d'autres régions. J'ai eu l'expérience en Algérie, j'ai eu l'expérience en Tunisie. En Afrique du Nord, ça se développe pas mal, comme au Moyen-Orient.
Merci. Merci. Michael, in your context of metals and machineries and all these elements, tell us a little bit more about that.
All those interesting things, yes? Okay. We're actually doing one project on Sustainability City in Dubai where we are being asked to find old stainless steel and renovate it and place it into the project. But we actually practice something called agile design or scrum design. So we bring, out of our 30 members, we have architects, interior design background, engineers, project designers for kitchens, and we bring them together for any new project. And we work as like a swarm, if you can picture that. We've worked for the last 2 years in developing some back of house, what we consider perfect designs for certain areas, which is the modularization idea of designing a room to a certain standard. And that then is tested, and then it becomes part of another room, and that becomes part of another room. So, Michael, you mentioned jigsaw the other day, just a moment ago for the back of house. It's exactly how we look at it. If it's back of house, we have our tested areas, we put them together quickly, and we know efficiently. We then have to, when we modulate a design, we then have to customize it because you have the market you're in. In this market here, we're looking at French and Spanish equipment, whereas our normal standard would be German, Swiss for a 5-star property. And then you have to look at the operator. We have some operators who demand twice as much space as others. For the same product, in the same location, we have examples of this, and we have to manage that. We've actually created a tool now which has been launched this week on the internet, MCTS Agility, which in 2 weeks will prepare a tender document for a back-of-house based product up to a 3-star, maybe a 4-star hotel, but also central kitchens. It's a tool to allow architects to have an extended concept. They have a full design package. We're also allowing operators to have a benchmark, which is based on their standards, to present to whoever will carry on the design, for developers to know that their space is tested and that they have an idea of cost and of services required, and for feasibility consultants. It's really a new tool that they can actually plug this into the evaluation of a project.
This will help a lot of the owners, I would say, and developers. Fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot of time saving, actually.
It is. It's 2 weeks. We think it's an 80% reduction in design cost. There will be an on-cost after that for follow-up, but that can be done by a local kitchen equipment supply house. We think it's groundbreaking. We don't think it's ever been done before. It's available for every country in the world, which is why it's 2 weeks. If it was just the Middle East, we'd do it in 1 week. But we have to take a week to research the market it's going for to make the changes we need.
Fantastic. My last question before we finish, because we're running out of time, is I would like to orient this question to our three creative part. I don't say that you're not creative here, but creative stars here. What are the trends of design in the hospitality industry in the North African region? What is the latest trend of design in this region? But Can you please just elaborate on that? What is your personal opinion on that?
What we're seeing a lot more, and we're designing currently, is wellness, the wellness concept, in terms of hospitality, which is it's a sort of fusion between a slight component of medical with resorts, with F&B. It's got a very different clientele. The duration stay for a wellness center would be maybe minimum stay 7 days up to 14 days. So it's actually another sort of offshoot of the hospitality in terms of different requirements and a different sort of brief. But it's quite an interesting development, because it brings in a layer of well-being, some non-intrusive medical procedures. So we find that it's a growing market. It's a new layer of hospitality design that we're seeing is becoming very popular, and we see that as a growth in the coming years.
I think the unique thing that we look at Africa as a continent, but also as several countries, is that a good majority of the population are 30 and under. So you're starting to see this whole millennial generation that is up and coming. They're a lot more tuned in. They're into their technology, whether it be Instagram or whatever it may be, but the world has become much smaller. So we're starting to see this trend where you're almost looking at these travelers that, even if they're at a younger age, they're very knowledgeable. They understand the world, they understand what's going on around them. So I think this is where Africa has a huge opportunity. It has an opportunity to create its own trend, essentially. Given kind of almost like in a lot of countries, I would say outside of Morocco, is kind of a clean slate. So there's something that could be created that could be something completely different. And I think given the knowledge and the education of that generation, that younger generation that's up and coming, I think there's going to be some massive changes, because I think that the one thing about that generation, they don't settle. They're like, they want to change the world. And I think this opportunity has something that could really bring something to the table. So it's going to be very exciting next 10, 15 years for Africa and what could happen. As long as we start to get infrastructure in place, I think that will increase the trend, and that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, very exciting times.
Thank you, Nasser. So Lotfi, I'll let you close this panel discussion with your opinion, because you are one of the well-respected architects and designers in Morocco. So I will let the last words to you.
I think Michael and Nasser, they had a small story to close the panel. That changed my way of seeing architecture and design, and see how the trends are affecting that. Last year I took some international press. I invited to a resort we finished in Oman at 2,000 meter high. So the project was there. It's operated by Anantara, and we were proud to show that to the press. So all the press came, many prestigious magazines. And so I was showing them the architecture, the interior design. We were very happy to do a full design scope. And then some journalists, they told me, did you know about Instagram, the Belvedere? Because the project, it's 2,000 meter high, and we did like a Belvedere to enjoy the view. And the Belvedere, basically, it's just a platform with a glass wall. And the journalist came to me and told me, you know that it's the most Instagrammable place in all Oman? I said, no, I didn't know about that. He said, this is fantastic. Can you imagine that? I said, yes. Well, have you seen the architecture and the interior design with it? I said, no, but this is great. I said, yeah, it's great, but it's the view. It's not us. It's the landscape. The view is already fantastic. It's just a platform. And they were all sitting in this platform the entire day. So we were building a complex building, an architecture sophisticated with areas, and at the end what matters is just this platform with this glass wall, and the fact also that this became Instagram. So at the end, I think, to come back to that, to the trend, is not about building anymore. It's not about building a box. It's really about experience, and by experience I'm talking about sequences. It's what guests are feeling, are seeing. One project we are doing in Dubrovnik, we forgot about the concept of the building because nobody can see the building. It's on a quarry wall, so you can see it only when you're on the sea. So this changed completely, and this our way of seeing things. And definitely Instagram, social medias, images, the guest experience, all that are the new trend, and they are impacting our way and our practice and our way of designing things. So
amazing. Thank you very much, Lotfi. So thank you to all of us. And I would like to ask to the team on the panel, I think there's no one who wants to ask a question. Where's our speaker?
So nobody has any questions to ask? No? All good? Well, in that case, let's hear it for our panelists then. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you all very much for spending your time with us and sharing your insight with us. As a token of our appreciation, we'd like to hand you with a small memento that we've been handing out for the last couple of days. And to present the mementos to you, gentlemen, I would like to invite some of our sponsors who have been with us today. Can I request Mr. Aziz El Khadri from Asa Abloy? Some of you have met Mr. Aziz El Khadri yesterday. There we go. Can I also request Mr. Imad Bulabat from Willow? He was here on stage. Mr. Imad. And I can also request Mr. Robert Teckenbrock from CHF Lighting Solutions. Can I request you to come on stage as well and hand over the mementos to our panelists? And from our delegate side, can I request Mr. Othman Diori from Ayad to come on stage as well? Mr. Othman. All right. Never mind. So can we have the first memento handed out to Mr. Zakaria Sadik, the president of the MGBC? Can one of you gentlemen pass this? The MGBC, Moroccan Green Building Council, is our sustainability partner. Thank you very much for your endorsement, Mr. Sadik. We really appreciate it. Can we also have a memento for Michael Chabowski? Would like to go? Yeah. Maybe 2 each. We have 6 panelists and 3 guests, so we do the maths and we have 2 each. Imad, would you like to proceed? Yeah. Also a memento for Mr. Michael Magill.
So everyone is satisfied now.
And if you can proceed and hand over a memento to Nasser Turk, who's been with us for several of our initiatives. I think this is your 4th initiative with us, Nasser? 3rd, 4th or something? Again. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the face-to-face meetings. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us. Can we please have another round of applause before we leave the stage? And one for the checkout by 12 o'clock. The hotel requests everyone to check out, but if you're checking out today, then please check out by 12 o'clock, which is about 45 minutes from now. So please do keep that in mind. And one